Okay, so when you put one of these, you kind of look like a primate, but that's what we are. Uh, I have been busy writing or completing my book, so I didn't have time to talk on YouTube. And YouTube is not obviously a priority. So a lot has been going on here and there in media, in this and that, and I hope that all of you are doing well in whatever way. And lately, I have been coming across a particular topic from psychology, which is going around. And I would like to talk a bit on that. And that's called cognitive dissonance. Many of you who are from psychology would know what that means. And I would like to show you the relevance of that idea to current situation. Cognitive dissonance. I am in that kind of a mood now, whether to accept the reality or whether to show some grit and get on with whatever my understanding is. And cognitive dissonance is more or less about that. I don't know why people pull out tricks from cognitive psychology or whatever whenever they are in trouble. And this is all the time there because you never saw these kind of things coming in media or elsewhere before the pandemic. They were just kind of constrained to classrooms of people who studied psychology. But now everybody seems to be worried about their mental health or some kind of uncertainty. And that's true, And that's why psychological ideas probably are going everywhere. But I'd like to give you, as always, some academic background to that so that we know what that idea is and how it can be useful in understanding some of the things that we are facing now. Okay, cognitive dissonance is an idea that was first floated by Leon Festinger, who was a psychologist. And more recently, some of his students have resurrected the idea, writing about it in more mainstream publications like I came across an article in The Atlantic, and I also saw that some other such intellectual weeklies are carrying articles on cognitive dissonance, particularly relevant to, this can go now, to the pandemic situation. The idea is very simple. How often have you felt that you have been tackling conflicting ideas? Two ideas or two emotions or two states of the mind are in conflict. Whether to go, whether not to go. Like I am now. Whether to do PhD or not to do PhD. Whether to marry or not to marry. Whether I like this person or I don't like this person. Whether this is good or bad. So conflicting ideas are, I would say, are part parcel of the mental life. There's no way around them. But the interesting thing is that your brain is capable of handling conflicting ideas. That's the beauty of it. That you have got a powerful machine that can really tackle conflicting ideas. And then you can select which idea you want to tilt more towards. You can develop some bias. So Leon Festinger proposed that cognitive dissonance essentially is when there are two conflicting ideas and people prefer the idea that suits them, even if it is irrational. And you know that in cognitive science we talk of rationality a lot because that's the history of cognitive science since Descartes. that your mind is always capable of taking some rational decision, the decision that is just, virtuous, morally sound, all kind of stuff. But that is not true. We end up taking decisions that are none of this. Rather, we do things that we like. But how do you justify it? So cognitive dissonance is all about things you know rationally with empirical facts that not correct. Like right now, if you look around all the information, your rational mind is telling that it's dangerous to go out, dangerous to see, stand near someone. It's absolutely no, with so many people getting infected. But then, somewhere, your mind is telling you that, well, I am healthy, I am a better, strong immune system, and this and blah blah. In my culture, society, nobody gets it. In my neighborhood, nobody gets it. So you are rationalizing it in your own way, and then you go out, and that kind of stays with you. So you are not afraid, really. I mean, you might be lucky if you are not getting it because of this notion. So cognitive dissonance is conflicting ideas, but people are selecting the idea or the notion and acting on it. It has to do with action. That kind of suits them. So there is no good or bad, basically. It's entirely up to you how you justify something. Let's take example of smoking. You know that on the cover of a cigarette packet it's written that it's bad for your health. But then you keep smoking, and many people would rationalize things that it makes me look thinner, or it is stylish, or it is this and that. And all the media and movies, they kind of propagate this idea that it's kind of okay to smoke a cigarette. But you know deep down that it's dangerous for your health. You might even be having some symptoms, but then you carry on smoking. So we carry on doing things that are empirically proven to be bad, but we seem to be rationalizing on some other basis. And they're purely heuristic, they're purely irrational. You can check Daniel Kahneman's notions of, there are two systems of decision making, one rational, one emotional. And some time ago, I was talking to Professor Joshua Girin of Harvard on the Cog Talk program that I and my students do. He has written a book. I think in my last episode, I talked about that. So you can go and check the YouTube video, which is now on the University of Hyderabad YouTube channel. So humans make all kind of moral decision making or judgmental decision making or sentimental decision making, which are not actually beneficial, but they are beneficial to those people who are making them. So cognitive dissonance is exactly this problem. When there are conflicting ideas and you try to kind of develop a bias towards one of the ideas that you know for sure is helpful to you but is bad otherwise, given the facts. Let's see how it goes. So I'm preferring to go out because I have some work. And so I am rationalizing that I am safe in my car, or where I am going, a lot of other people are not there, or blah, blah, blah. They're taking temperature measurements. So I'm kind of rationalizing, you see. But it's not necessary that my rationalizing is fact. It's just in my head. And if I'm safe or nothing happens to me and I repeat the behavior, then it kind of is true to me. Who cares what's going around? So you always rationalize, okay, he got it because he goes to those places, or, like it happened with AIDS. Those who do this behavior, they get AIDS. So people always rationalize, put it on others, but never on themselves. So cognitive dissonance is good or bad, we'll see. I want to give some more explanation. Okay, so the idea of cognitive dissonance is not that difficult. It's essentially the conflict of belief and what you choose to do. So people have belief, or they know certain things, like it's this and that and all, but they choose to do something exactly opposite. So it's the conflict of what you want to do with your belief structure. And that is cognitive dissonance. So they are not in harmony. And this conflict can be problematic for your psychology. When you are entertaining two different types of thoughts that are not in harmony, because we want harmonious thoughts. Like, it's advisable not to smoke, and you actually are not smoking. They're harmonious. But it's advisable not to smoke, but you are going on smoking. So you are rationalizing the disharmony. That is another matter, how people are able to do that. And most people actually are able to do that. So it's a very peculiar theory in many ways. So whether it is good or bad, let's explore a bit. It's pretty warm in Hyderabad. Whatever it is. So the Atlantic article focused on cognitive dissonance in the context of the pandemic. And it became obvious to me that there is some truth to that. Now, what's going on now is that some countries have opened up, and there are people who want to go out and travel, and some offices have opened up, stuff like this. In India as well. But then there is this fear. What happens if you go out and catch the disease? So you are entertaining conflict. Now, this conflict can be problematic to many. I'll give you one example that is on top of my head. Now, students, whether they will return to universities or not, is a bothersome question now. And many universities are deciding that they would selectively allow some students to come in, like in my university here. Now, what happens? Suppose you are a student and you know the facts that it's dangerous because nobody will be really responsible if you catch the disease. But on the other hand, the university says that, okay, you can come in because your work is suffering and research is suffering and so on and so forth. So you are in a conflict. And you certainly want to further your career. You have been, missing around a lot of stuff. It has been several months. So what do you do exactly? So you have to bias your entire mindset towards one thing, whether to really come back, do your research, understanding even the facts, and to some extent overlooking the facts and carry on. Or you choose to stay at home. So all such decisions will be based on these kinds of biasing of attention, or you can say suppressing something and then elevating some other stuff. Cognitive dissonance is essentially this. Imagine what happens. Suppose the world kind of stays like this. Months after months go by. Some people die, some people live. Every day you hear about recovery rate, this and that, or reoccurrence of the disease, like in China, the disease has come back in some pockets. Now suppose the human spirit is a different kind of stuff. It won't, give in very easily. It won't accept defeat. But that's how we have evolved. So suppose the world stays on, and then one fine day, the government says that, look, it's up to you. Whether you want to do your job, you come. Otherwise, we are not paying your salary. Now, what do? You look at the facts of the disease, still people will be dying, still people will be getting it, or you come back to work. Because the level of security that they can offer you is not going to radically change. This is India, we know how it works. I don't know about some advanced countries, maybe they can offer you some more. But it's not going to happen here, that they really take care of your health and they assure you that you aren't going to get anything. That's not going to happen. Let's talk sense. So what happens then? My speculation is that people would apply cognitive dissonance, they would go back to work, taking all precautions. Now they're not applying it because, there are kind of holidays atmosphere. The institutions themselves are closed. So when they open, now they leave it to you, whether you want to come back or not. Then you have to, bias your attention. That, okay, they would rationalize. No, job is important, life is important. Anyway, this is how it is. I have to take care of myself. A lot of people are going. So you rationalize and you go. So even if you catch the disease, or you see the never catching the disease would affect you much, because you already have kind of biased your attention to such an extent that the facts are no longer relevant. So cognitive dissonance can be a powerful strategy actually in getting done certain things that would be otherwise difficult to do. But then it has some other, repercussions. A lot of people I see in the real world, they have conflict all the time. Sometimes they have ideological conflict, what they really believe, what they want to do. And it depends on successful people and failures, obviously, because we have two worldviews. One worldview belongs to people that have achieved success through hardship, through hard work, and those who have been out of failures, and they have been rationalizing their failures, their failed life in many, many other ways. Sometimes blame the government, sometimes blame the situation, basically finger pointing. So if you ask them what is their essential belief, depending on the facts, they would agree with you. No, meritocracy is fine. People that that are meritorious, they should be given chance. But then if you leave them free, they would err around all kinds of views. So you see a disharmony between, and this is always, I think, a give and take as an individual. They safeguard their own selfish interest. So safeguarding self-interest is obviously a human tendency, but I see cognitive dissonance more common in people that have not achieved success than those who are successful. But obviously, of course, those who have achieved success, or those who have been on a goal-directed mission all the time, they deal with dissonance in a different way. They kind of suppress the negative tendencies and they get on. Like imagine the historical anecdote of Alexander. So, cognitive dissonance can actually be productive and creative, but then it depends on who you are. If you are someone who can entertain conflicting thoughts and can make a good deal out of one of the thoughts, then it's fine. But if you are someone who will go crazy entertaining conflicting thoughts, then that would be, problematic. So, nevertheless, I like this road a lot. Very fantastic road, a lot of trees, and it's about to rain now, and I have to check into my home, and then I would regard all the facts of the universe related to COVID. But nevertheless, what I was going to say next, let me reach home and continue this idea. This is one more example of cognitive dissonance. All these people with small sops, fruits, vegetables throughout, I mean, they could have entertained this fact and they could have stayed home. But then, no, it's a matter of, hunger. So they need to go to their work, and this is everywhere. So who entertains or not depends on a lot of life circumstances. To what extent it is either necessary, because this is for them, they need to work. A lot of us who have comfortable jobs, they can stay home and entertain all the facts and wait for the world to be opening, God knows when. But then, as I indicated before, some of us have to really disregard certain facts later maybe. But for example, for academics like me, international travel is absolutely essential. And I cannot understand a world where that would not be the case. So it's a matter of opening up of the skies and countries taking a more liberal approach than what they are taking now, because more recently the WHO chief has said that countries cannot close their skies forever, because so there is a will to kind of defeat this disease at certain cost. Even when we are aware of the facts, that countries are battling and people are dying and all of that is there. But then we need to have some kind of dissonance. So this is a good example of anticipatory dissonance. It's like what I would do in the case of this lockdowns and this kind of life continuing forever. Would I be kind of housebound, or I would like to go out? I'm checking out some plants to buy. When you stay indoors, plants become important. And I think now that life is indoor pretty much, it's important to have some plants around. So got these plants. I'm liking anthuriums a lot. Because although it's not very easy to get plants indoor and make them survive. I'm going to show you a little video towards the end of this talk. Kind of plants that I already have, and I hope that you will like it. Okay, so let's complete this idea of cognitive dissonance. The way the more popular writings about it now that are surfacing in the pandemic literature kind of portrays people who have cognitive dissonance as bad. Because of the cognitive dissonance, they venture out, they don't wear masks, and they think that whoever is being more skeptical or is more observant of the rules are bad. Or that's the way it's portrayed. But my take on this is that it can be understood more differently, more creatively. Because I am not from psychology, because I think psychological analysis always differs from mainstream cognitive science type of stuff. So I am looking at it from cognitive control. As you may know that cognitive control allows you to suppress undesirable plans and act out those that are important to you. Now, for example, it is important for you to do certain things, given what may, then you would suppress those factual plans that are telling you not to do. That's a good example of cognitive dissonance. More recent studies are showing that when you apply cognitive dissonance, uh, when there are two plans and they're in conflict and you want to go for one, people who have greater uh, cognitive control, they actually are more successful because they can suppress the one that it's telling them not to do more quickly. So the frontal areas of the brain, we know that they help you in exercising cognitive control, carrying out basically suppressing the undesirable plans are important for cognitive dissonance. So here is the point. Cognitive dissonance is not bad if you can use it to your benefit. So there is no one theory. If you can use it to your benefit, then it is fine. I think if you read about it, you will find many other things. And naturally, it is part of human nature to entertain conflict. And there is no life possible without conflict. So I don't see conflict as something extraordinary. I think the whole cognitive life that we live on a daily basis is full of conflicts. So how you suppress what needs to be suppressed for your own goals is very important to you, is very important. So you need to apply some kind of cognitive dissonance. You need to disbelieve certain facts, or you need to tell yourself that even though this is the situation, I have to get going and do certain things. So I think that people that kind of succeed, irrespective of challenges, they probably have more cognitive dissonance. Please be careful. These examples are not similar to the smoking example or the wearing mask example and other stuff like that. Not even the kind of examples that are people that are in conflict all the time and they kind of live their entire lives in this conflict. They never really know what they truly believe and what they want to do. I'm not talking about those kinds of examples. I'm talking about applying dissonance in order to succeed or do certain things. Otherwise, which are difficult for anybody. So there is this possibility to look at cognitive dissonance, or I would say the resolution of conflict from a more cognitive control point of view. Many bad things have happened more recently. A lot of people have committed suicide, although I didn't want to really get into that in this talk, but it has been on my mind. Why somebody would take their lives, given what may? Of course, it's subjective, and I'm not getting into the euphoria or what do you say, people appropriating suicides even for their own personal interests and for whatever they are. We are seeing that in this country. But then, how to understand these kind of drastic decisions from a cognitive point of view? I don't think I would get into that topic now, but there is a lot that can be said actually. Because the decision to take your own life probably is the ultimate decision. Whether it is rational, irrational, they only know, whoever do that. For anybody else, they're just commentators, just bystanders. They'll just try to see whether they can take a little advantage talking about it in a certain way. Nevertheless, so cognitive dissonance is an important idea, and it really, really has consequences for understanding a lot of our everyday behavior. So I hope that you have adjusted to the quarantine life, and we just can be hopeful. There is no other words to describe the situation that we find now ourselves. And it's important to keep hope and to keep working, because I have found for my own self in the last couple of months that new creative hobbies and more engagement and understanding what you want to do are actually helpful in maintaining the goals, even though it may look like okay, there is nothing now remaining, but that's not true. So we can be hopeful and I hope that okay. I showed you some pictures of the plants that I purchased and the plants that I have around me in my house, which is a recent serious hobby, I would say, and I'm enjoying it. And I think that it teaches me a lot about being careful and being attentive. So ultimately, it all connects, whatever you do. And there is a small cinematic video I was shooting because of the early morning lights. And I hope that you will like it. And yeah, in one of the earlier episodes, I was talking about creativity. So that's the only way out from this kind of a situation. That if you can be creative and if you can maintain your passion in doing whatever you have been doing or getting more deeper into it, I think they would all add on to some kind of a new goal. I mean, that requires cognitive dissonance to be full of grit and to uh, kind of get on with life, expecting change. But actually, we know that there is no vaccine for many months and this and that and that. But the human tendency is to be hopeful, to expect change, and for survival. So thank you very much. It's pretty warm at times here in Hyderabad, and sometimes it rains, and it's fluctuating. So I'll see you later sometimes, and all the best.